So now Brian is doing his lightning talk. So that's the first one, and then actually we will see, we got a lot of entries. I think we'll just go through them. We have actually one previously submitted entry by Björn, which will definitely be the last talk, because it's a good closer. But I think, at some point we'll just gauge the room and see how tired people feel and whether they want to have one more talk or go home. And yeah, so give it up for Brian again.
So this is a talk looking at some features of Prometheus that have been added over the last while to give full flexibility in relational algebra, because it turns out there's stuff you need. So lots of people have used queries like this. You get your counter, you take a rate of it, and just sum both sides. And that'll give you 500 per total request. And that comes out basically as one number with no labels. Or maybe you're going to do it by job, because you should always mention your job label. And that's 200s per request. Grand. Unless you actually never have any 200s, in which case that will never return. Always set your labels and everything. But there's a function modifier that you can have on your by clauses, on your aggregations, called without. And what it does is that, sum by, and here we're just removing the s, and this is the same as without s, because sometimes you don't know basically every single target label that is set, because you don't know what target labels someone has put on something, but you'd like to share rules around. So without, and by just mentioning instrumentation labels, like what's actually in the direct instrumentation, then everyone can share their rules. Although there are still some uses for by as well. And there's equivalence then if you're doing vector matching, so anything like multiplication, addition, anything where there's two operators, you have ignoring and on, which is the same as by and without. Because by default, all the vector operations are one-to-one for bin ops. So both sides must match exactly. But you can imagine you have a case, if we're going to continue with the HTTP ones, the errors, you've got a code handler and a method, and in HTTP requests, there's no handler. So those don't match. So how do we make things join together? And the answer is ignoring. So here we can just say, here we're saying, here's the without, so removing the handler, so it's still got the code and method, and this, still has the code and method, so they join up. And now everything matches and you get a result. Although, this isn't quite correct. There's also on, you can also say, hey, I want to work on code and method, and I just match the joins up again. And you can join together. But you do have to be a little bit careful, because sometimes you get this, it seems to work, because there's a cardinality of 1, because everything's still trying to one-to-one match, but it's just because other ones haven't been exported yet. And if that's the case, you will get this error, because you are trying to do a many-to-one match. In which case, you've got two other modifiers called group left and group right. And what they do is say, hey, these two sides have different cardinality, match them up. And group left is saying, hey, the left side has more, so group them together. And then one from the other side will match up. So here, because we've got higher cardinality is, without handler. So this is a handler, this doesn't. And we can calculate the errors per handler, isn't it? Per method, I think, yeah. Not my slides. And that's it. Thank you.